students, welcome to this class of English. I am Ritu Srivastav. I have a very interesting and inspiring lesson for you today. The name of the lesson is 3 questions. The learning objectives of today's session are to comprehend through illustrations, identify the characters, sequence of ideas and events, express the views, enrich vocabulary, inculcate values of wisdom, acceptance, forgiveness and kindness, and justify the 3 questions in the context of the present class. Students, do these questions occur in your mind as how to become successful in life? What is the secret behind success? Or maybe I would never fail if I knew this. Surely such questions come to our mind. We all also feel the same, but we do not know the answers. Moreover, there is not any particular answer or act to make us successful in life. To become successful in life, we have to act right at the right time in a right way. So, what are those acts? Who will tell us how to do? All these answers are here in this story. Let's find out. In the lesson 3 questions, there was a king who never wanted to fail in life. He thought if he knew the answers to his 3 questions, he would be successful in life. The 3 questions that he wanted answers to were: what is the most important time to begin something? Who are the people he should listen to? And what is the most important work for him to do? So the king sent his messengers throughout his kingdom to give the reward to those who would give the right answers. But no one could satisfy the king with the answers. What happens next? We will see in this story. The story has been written by Leo Tolstoy, a 19th century writer known for his famous novels and short stories. He was born on September 9, 1828 in Russia. His major works were War and Peace and Anna Karenina. While writing the classics, he turned his hand for the younger readers as well as and presented several stories and novels imbibed in human values. Tolstoy's ideal of simplicity of life and purity of purpose influenced Gandhiji deeply. Both Gandhi and Tolstoy adopted the idea of love to solve problems of life. Tolstoy died on November 20, 1910. The 3 Questions is a 1903 short story by Leo Tolstoy as a part of the collection What Men Live By and Other Tales. The story takes the form of a parable and it tells about a king who wants to find the answers to what he considers the 3 most important questions in life. So there was a king who thought that he would never fail if he knew the answers to his 3 questions. The questions were: what is the right time to begin something? Which people should he listen to? What is the most important thing for him to do? He thought if he could get the answers to these questions, he would be a successful king in his life. To find the answers, the king sent messengers throughout the kingdom, promising a large sum of money as a reward. Many wise men came with different answers, but they failed to satisfy the king. Some of the wise men thought that in order to decide the right time for doing something, one must look into the future, and only magicians were able to do that. So they advised the king to go to the magicians. In answer to the second question, some people suggested to seek advice of counselors, the priest or the doctors or the soldiers. For the third question, some people said science was the most important business, while there were others also who believed it was fighting, and then there were those who believed religious worship should take the first place. So all the answers were different. The wise men could not get the reward because their answers were so different from each other, and king was not satisfied with their answers. Then the king decided to meet a hermit who was known for his wisdom. The hermit lived in the woods and met only simple people. Therefore, the king dressed up ordinarily to meet him. He left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. When he reached the hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground. The hermit greeted the king and continued digging. He was an old and weak man. The king asked him the answers of his 3 questions. The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. "You are tired," said the king. "Let me take the spade and walk in your place." "Thanks," said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. Students, spade is a digging tool. You can see it in the picture. After digging 2 beds, the king repeated his questions. Instead of answering him, the hermit asked for the spade so that he could dig. But the king continued to dig. The sun had set. The king asked the hermit if he would not answer his questions, he would go home. Meanwhile, someone came running. Students, flower bed means the area in the garden where flowers are grown. So the hermit was digging the area for flower plants. This is the end of part 1 of the story. Students, the king has not yet got answers to his 3 questions. He was waiting that the hermit will reply, but he didn't. Why did the hermit not reply? What was he waiting for? What will be his answers? These are the questions you may be thinking of. So let's move on to next part of the story and find out. The person who came running was a bearded man who had pressed his hands against his stomach from where blood was flowing. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. After regaining consciousness, the bearded man apologized to the king and explained who he was. He was the king's enemy and sought revenge from him, as the king had killed his brother and seized his brother's property too. The man apologized to the king and said, "I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home. But the day passed and you didn't return, so I left my hiding place and came upon your bodyguard, who recognized me and wanted me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you had not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life." The king had saved his life, and so the man declared himself to be his most faithful servant. The king went to the hermit and repeated his questions. The king said, "For the last time, I beg you to answer my questions, wise man." The hermit replied that the king had got his answers in the incidents. To clear his doubts, the hermit gave the answers. He said, "When you pitied my weakness and helped in digging, you had to stay back, and you got saved from the enemy's attacks. So important time was digging the beds, and the important person was the me." The hermit said, "In next incident, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him, because if you had not dressed his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Therefore, the most important time is now. The most necessary person is the person you are with at a particular moment, and the most important business is to do that person good. And this is the purpose of our life." Students, now we will see the new words that we have learned in the lesson. Let us discuss them. Messenger means a person who carries messages. Wise, learned. Prepare, to put something in readiness. Seemed, to appear. Necessary, essential. Worship, to pray. Instead, a substitute. Fainted, to lose consciousness. Notice, to observe. Seek, to go in search. Advice, an opinion. Greeted, to address with polite words. Spade, a tool for digging. Forgive, to excuse. Pitied, having sympathy. Seized, snatched. Now we will see some adjectives to mark the personality traits of two main characters in the story. The behavior, action and conversation of king and hermit signify these qualities. The king is curious, practical, intelligent, compassionate and helpful. The hermit is practical, simple, compassionate, self-supporting, calm and dignified. Students, I hope that you must have got an idea of what this story is all about. The theme of the story is about the value of wisdom, knowledge, awareness, kindness, forgiveness and acceptance. Apart from this, it also justifies some saying as we can act in the present only, so the present is the most important time. Revenge is not the solution to settle the scores. Best service to mankind is love, not hatred. Now we will talk about the writing style to understand the events and purpose of the story. The story is sectioned into two parts. In the first part, the king is in search of his answers and reaches to the hermit. In the second part, the various incidents provide the answers. Moreover, the story has been narrated in the third person. The story has been told in the style of a parable, illustrating a moral lesson. Students, now a quick review of the story to understand the characters, background, problem, solution and of course conclusion. This is necessary to understand the writing and narrating techniques of the story. So what are those? Characters: king, hermit, bearded man. Background: palace, wood. Problem: the king was not getting the right answer, hermit didn't reply. Solution: king got the answer in the given situation. Conclusion: present time is the important time. The person next to us is important. Doing good is the most important job to do. Now it's time to check what we have learned. Here are the sentences to be completed. Many wise men answered the king's questions. Second, someone suggested that there should be a council of wise men. Third, someone else suggested that the king should have a timetable. Fourth, the king requested the hermit. Let's see the solutions. Number 1, many wise men answered the king's questions, but their answers were so varied that the king was not satisfied. Second one, someone suggested that there should be a council of wise men to help the king act at the right time. The third one, someone else suggested that the king should have a timetable and follow it strictly. The fourth is, the king requested the hermit to answer 3 questions. Here is one more interesting activity to do. Students, you have to match the words in column A to their appropriate meanings in column B. A quick look at the words. The words are strictly, instead, notice, counsel, avoid, seemed, spade. Let's check if we have matched the words to their correct meanings. So, strictly is to carefully, instead, substitute, notice, to observe, counsel, a group of people to advise, avoid, to stop oneself from doing something, seemed, to appear, spade, a tool for digging. Now it's time to ask yourself some questions. It will give you a better insight of the lesson. These are the questions. Which answers do you like the most and why? Why present is the most important time in life? Students, here are some questions for you. You will write the answers in your copy. Why did the king send his messengers throughout his kingdom? Why did the king refuse to give the reward to anyone? And where did the hermit live? What made the bearded man visit the hermit's place? Did the hermit answer the questions? If yes, how? Now I am sure that you all have come to know the importance of present time as laid out in the lesson. Students, this is the time in which we can act. Otherwise, past time and future time is only for thinking. So we all should take the present time very seriously. The people in our surroundings are the most important people. So we should listen to them. We should do our duty as and when it comes to us without any biases and prejudices. This is the purpose of human life. I am sure that you will do your homework as this is the important job to do for you, as the lesson also says. Thank you.